Okay, I think we've got most of the people on now, so I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Thanks everybody, first of all, for joining. I appreciate everybody who registered and attends. So what this is going to be about is just a kind of a rough outline of how you can work less in 2020 and actually be more successful in the process. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. By the way, this is Mike Toy with National Brokerage. We've been around for a little over 20 years now. We're a national life and annuities company here in Boise, Idaho. Moving on to the next slide here. Okay, so again, the goal of this webinar, it's not to provide a very stringent guide for you to follow step by step. It's more of a rough outline so that you can maybe pick up some new ideas on how you can streamline what you do, and so that way you can sell more life insurance with less effort, as the title suggests. And also just some winning phrases, some things that we've found through trial and error over the years that work well either to get conversations started, or maybe once a conversation is started, you know, just some new ways of getting your point across and helping people understand the importance of what it is that you have to say. Why do we want to do this? We want you to be successful. When you are successful, we are successful. And it's always better to work less for more as opposed to working more for less. So our job is to help you be more successful in what you do. So that's why we're doing it. And again, the how is just by showing you a quick blueprint and maybe a new way of looking at selling life insurance, so that rather than doing it the old grinding it out way that we're all taught how to do it and that we've done for years, maybe just finding some new ways to streamline what you do and new ways to maybe drive business to you rather than you going after business. So the more of that we can accomplish, the better. And when do we want to do this? This is a trick question. Right now. I hope you all got that answer right. Moving on. So first, I want to make a distinction between the two types of sales that we're going to be talking about in this webcast. These aren't the only types of sales out there, but for this demonstration purposes, we're going to be talking about the new sale. So brand new clients, maybe people you've never spoken with before, or cross-selling your existing clients on life insurance or referrals, whatever the case may be. It's a new sale for you. So you are introducing life insurance and more or less just going after the sale. Policy reviews is the other type of sale we're going to be talking about. That's a little different because you're not going after a new sale directly. You're not saying, Mr. Smith, do you have life insurance? Would you like to buy some life insurance? Instead, you're going at it with the approach of, let's look at the life insurance that you have and let's make sure it still fits your needs. Let's make sure it's still the lowest premium or the best face amount for your needs, or whatever the case may be. So it's two different mindsets, two different approaches, and we're going to talk about both. Next, we're going to be recognizing the different stages that it goes through, whether it's a policy review sale or a brand new sale, whatever the case is. There's, for the most part, three main stages, a beginning, middle, and end, if you will. Number one is introducing the idea. Either, do you have life insurance? Would you like to buy life insurance? Or, let's take a look at the life insurance you have. Whatever the case is, that's the beginning. Your pitch, whatever you say to get this conversation going, that's the beginning part. Running quotes on new policies. So whether it's a new sale or policy review, of course, you're going to want to run some new quotes and say, well, maybe take a look at this. And then, of course, okay, the agreement, we agree, this is better. You like this. Let's get the situation started. So that's the first stage. I'm going to be introducing some new ways to do the first stage, from pitch to quoting to getting the application started. And then the process, the middle part, that's filling out the application once you've gained that agreement, ordering paramed exams, dealing with underwriters, maybe going after doctor records when necessary. This is the most lengthy stage, and I'm going to be introducing a new way to do this. It may be new to you or it may not, but we've got a much easier way to handle the process than maybe what you've done in the past. So I'm going to be introducing some ideas for you there. And then 3, it looks like I labeled it 2 there, delivering the policy. It should be 3. The end is delivering the policy. There's not as much to this. This is just where you got the approval and you're delivering the policy, getting signatures, and securing payments. There's not a lot you can do there, but there are some things you can do to streamline this process as well. So these are the 3 stages that we're going to be looking at. So let's start with stage number 1, introducing the idea. The first thing I'm going to recommend, and I can't stress this enough, is automatic email marketing. There's reasons why we do it, so I'm going to talk about why, and I'm going to talk about how. So the reasons why we do it, it's not just because it's a new trendy thing. It's because let's look at the alternative for a moment. If you're not doing it, then what are you doing? Calling, perhaps, maybe talking to people face to face, whatever the case is, you're doing it the old school way. You're grinding it out. So the reason we do it is because A, let the internet do the work for you, so you don't have to do them all manually. B, it can cover a lot more people in a much shorter amount of time. And C, you're staying at the forefront of their minds this way. How many times have you talked to somebody from an insurance standpoint and they said, well, my Aunt Jean just passed away, and it got me thinking, gosh, her husband doesn't have anything, or vice versa. My Uncle Bob just passed away, and I realized now my aunt doesn't have anything because he didn't have life insurance. So I need life insurance. Let's get this going. How many times have you heard that, or something close to it? Probably at least once or twice, So with this system, with the automatic email marketing system, you're staying at the forefront of their minds without being obnoxious about it, depending on how frequently you set up the email marketing. So later on, 6 months down the road, if time's gotten away from you, and you haven't called them in a while, and something were to happen, now they're going to be thinking, oh, who was that guy? I get emails occasionally. Who was that? Oh, here it is, right here. Yeah, maybe I'll call this guy and see what life insurance would cost. Boom. Right there, it did the work for you. So if you set up an automatic email marketing campaign, A, again, it's going to do the work for you, and B, you're going to be getting people to call you about life insurance rather than you having to call them. And it's a lot easier to do it that way because then their mind is already open to the idea. You're not introducing it. You're just answering the phone and answering their questions and guiding them in the right direction. So there are a lot of systems out there that you can do an automatic email campaign with. They cost different things depending on how many emails you send, how frequently, whether or not you have content or if you're going to use their content. I wouldn't do any of those, and I'm not trying to toot our own horns here, but our system does it for free. So if you're working with us, you've already got a back office OES account. If not, give us a call, talk to your marketing rep, and we'll get you one. But in the OES, you can set up these automatic email marketing campaigns. We'll help you do it if you're not sure how or where to start, but typically you want to set it up on about a 3-week schedule. 3 weeks is enough time where you're not right in their face all the time to the point that they unsubscribe or they just sort of ignore you. But it's not so lengthy amount of time that they forget and they have to remind themselves who you are every time they get one. 3 weeks is sort of that magic time period where it's just enough for them to remember, but not so much that it gets on their nerves. If you have content, we can put your content into the system and use that. If you don't have content, let us know. We've got a ton. For the most part, we use some non-intrusive, friendly flyers, not data-rich that have a lot of statistics and boring things that are going to turn people off. Just some thought-provoking, non-intrusive flyers. And I'm going to show you an example of a few here in just a second. But again, just to reiterate the reason why we do this automatic email marketing, is to stay at the forefront of their minds. That's why you want to do it. I guarantee that if you set up an automatic email marketing campaign and you put it on autopilot for the year, you will see an increase in your life insurance sales. And you can use it for other lines too. If you do health or P&C, you can cross-sell all you like in the system. You can send as many emails as you like. So There's no reason not to do this. If you're not doing it, then you must be so successful already that you don't need it. But if you're not, I would say do it. So moving on to the next slide here. So here's a couple examples of the flyers that we use. And again, you don't have to use these. These are just examples. We've got a few of these. So as you can tell from this picture, life insurance is not for you. It's from you. You can see it's not something that requires a whole lot of thought when someone gets it. It's not one of those flyers that we've all seen that show, 42% of Americans are underinsured according to the latest LIMRA survey, and we found that 12% of our clients save 10%. Nobody reads those stats. Maybe occasionally someone who gets really analytical and is really far along in the process of knowing what they want already, they might want to see some stats, but 99% of people that you're going to be marketing to are not going to read lengthy, wordy flyers. They just want to take a picture, look at a picture, and more or less understand the concept of what you're trying to say in an instant. This picture says 1,000 words right there. It shows that, hey, you're not doing this for you. You're doing this for your children, your grandchildren. That's a pretty easy concept for people to understand. Again, kind of the same message. Life insurance isn't for you, it's from you. But it's same message, just told in a different story. So we've got a lot of different varieties of these. And you'll see some sort of generic logos and numbers down at the bottom. That's where we would put your logo or your name, website, all of your information to drive traffic back to you once your clients see it. A couple more examples. This is more of a policy review type of flyer. And here we get a little bit more wordy for the most part because, again, we're not going for that emotional touch like we are when it's a new concept. This is more like, hey, you've already got life insurance. You understand the concept. Let's take a look at it and make sure it's still the best thing for you. Moving on here, got one more. And another one. This is more of a generic kind of message. Do you have the new kind of life insurance or the old kind? Most of the time, the response you're going to get is, well, what do you mean? I don't know the difference. Oh, well, the new kind is the type that you don't have to die to use. Living benefit riders, for example. So just a good catchphrase with a nice, easy to understand message. You're not overdoing it. You're prompting them to call you. You're giving a thought-provoking message here, and they're going to want to call you to find out what exactly are you talking about here. So just a few examples. We've got lots of these. You don't even have to use them. Like I said, you can use your own if you prefer to use your own. We'll move on here. Okay. Here's some good bullet point phrases that you can use for the new sale when you're introducing the concept to people. And again, you don't have to use them just like they're worded here. You can word them in whatever way you like. These are just some ideas for you to use. If you can use even one of these things from this webcast today and use it for your own and it helps you, then I'll have done my job and it will all be worth it for you too. A couple things you can say. What kind of life insurance do you have? That's kind of crucial. I will stress this one. As simple as it sounds, it's one or two words away from what most people say. What most people say is, do you have life insurance? If I ask you, do you have life insurance, what are you going to say? Yes or no. That's the only two responses you can give. It's a close-ended question. This is an open-ended question. What kind of life insurance do you have? It requires a little bit of thought. It requires a little bit of explanation. Maybe it's none. I don't have any life insurance. Oh, you don't? Oh, well, let's run you a quote real quick. You don't say, can I run you a quote? You just run them a real quick quote and show it to them. If they do have life insurance, hopefully they'll know something about it and they can talk to you and you can see if that's still what meets their needs. So I would, just to not harp on that one bullet point, but I would say use that instead of, do you have life insurance? What kind of life insurance do you have? Do you have the old kind of life insurance or the new kind that you can use while you're still alive? Again, living benefit riders. If you're not familiar with what that is, that's typically the chronic illness rider or critical illness rider. So if you become chronically sick, you can access that death benefit while you're still alive. So it's the new kind of life insurance. It sounds pretty appealing when you're introducing that idea to people. Life insurance isn't for you, it's for your loved ones. You know, word that in your own way, but it's just another way of saying, getting them to think about it differently. So instead of thinking of it like, do I need life insurance? No. Does your family need you to have life insurance? Get them to think in that direction. Now all of a sudden they're doing it for a bigger cause than themselves, and they're a little more open-minded. And last bullet point, this is for business owners mostly. If you come across business owners or if you work with those, a couple good things you can say is, what would happen to your business if your key person were to pass away? That's for key person insurance, and maybe they are the key person, who knows? Or what would happen to you, your business, if your partner were to pass away? That's for a buy-sell agreement. So just to tell you the difference between the two, a key person insurance is just a regular term policy or any other kind of policy, except the business is the owner and the payer. For buy-sell agreement, again, same kind of policy as any other policy, except the partner is the owner and payer. And typically that's two policies, because if you have two partners, one is getting it on the first one, and the first one's getting it on the second one. And each one is their own, is the other one's owner and payer of the policy. I probably said that more complicated than it has to be, but it's actually a very simple way to do it. So moving on here. Maybe, there we go. Winning phrases for the policy review. Here's a couple of ways that you can handle this, whether you're trying to get the conversation started or if you're already in there. When is the last time you did a beneficiary check on your life insurance? Sounds kind of corny, but it is very effective, especially for people who are divorced. I've known a few people who figured this out the hard way. If you ask someone this and they say, my kids are the beneficiaries. Okay, that's honorable, I get that. Are they minors? Because if so, do you know that the money will go to your ex if you were to die? If you think about it, she or he is their sole provider. Oftentimes it never even crossed their mind. It didn't cross my mind for the longest time. But when you bring that up, it gets them thinking about it, and then maybe it's worth looking at just to see, is this the best way to do it? And maybe it is. Maybe they're fine with it. Who knows? But it gets the conversation going, and it gets them thinking. And I would say more than half the time, it will lead to doing a policy review. Again, do you have the old kind of life insurance or the new kind, like we went over before? How long is your current policy set up for? I get it through my work. Oh, okay, so it's set up for as long as you work there, then, basically. Or a lot of times what you'll hear is, I think it's set up forever, I guess. I don't know. Well, is it? Is it a term policy? Is that guaranteed? Because most of the policies out there are not guaranteed. Did you know that, Mr. Smith? Gosh, I think it's guaranteed. Let's take a look just to be sure. It doesn't hurt to look. Again, you're going at it with the approach of you want to help them. You want to help them understand what they have. And then second to that is you want to see if that's still the best option out there for them. Another good thing you can ask is, does your current policy build any cash value? Oftentimes they won't know. Typically, the only time they're going to have a very definitive answer is if they know for sure that it is, because they picked it consciously and they're aware of it. The rest of the time, they're not going to really know for sure. They're going to have to think about it. So just another way to get the conversation going so that you can start to look at their policy with them and partner with them in finding the best solution, not coming at it with the viewpoint of a salesman. Moving on here. Okay, there we go. So speaking of policy reviews, what are we looking for? A couple points on this real quick before I dive into it is a policy review, all we're really doing is we're just looking at their policy to see if it's still the best thing for them. So as long as we go at it with the right approach, that we want to first find out what their current needs are. Maybe they've had babies since the last time they bought a policy, or maybe their babies are now adults and they've moved away and they don't need as much cover. Who knows? But the first point is always to find out what their current needs are. Once we understand that, A, we'll do a better job at finding a good solution, and B, they will trust us to find them a better solution because they know that we understand their needs. So if we don't do that first, they're not going to trust us, and we're not even going to know what to look for. So start there by finding out what their needs are, and then we're going to look for more competitive plans out there or more competitive premiums to try and beat what they currently have. So a couple things to look for in no particular order. A UL policy that's underperforming. A lot of people bought policies 10, 15, even 20 years ago that they were told would last forever. They'll build cash value, it'll last till you die, it'll start to grow from there, maybe even pay for itself after a while. But as we all know, interest rates changed and they didn't build interest the way that they thought they would, and now, you know, it's maybe set to lapse in a couple of years. I see it all the time. So look for a policy that isn't performing. Another thing to look for, and this is the most common, is a term policy that is set to expire in the near future. So a good way to do it, let's say you've got a big book of business that you want to sort through and you don't know where to start, start by looking for 10-year terms that were purchased 9 years ago. That's a perfect place to start. Term policies with conversion options that expire soon. I've told this story before on here. I'll tell it again in a nutshell. We found one. The woman was 59 and a half years old. She had a 10-year term that she bought 9.5 years ago. So in other words, she had 6 months to either convert that term policy into a permanent policy, and I'll go over what that means here in a minute, or lose it. Well, as it turns out, she developed cancer since she bought the policy, so she can't qualify for another policy now. This is it. It was $1 million policy. So since we caught it in time, the beauty of doing a conversion is that there's no underwriting. You can just convert it from a temporary term policy into a permanent policy with 0 underwriting, which is perfect for her because she got it at a standard rate. Now she has cancer, she can't get anything at all, so she was thrilled. It ended up being a $23,000 sale for the agent. That was how much he walked away with in commission on that. And she was happy to do it because she thought she had been paying on a $1 million policy all this time for nothing. So now she got to keep it and everyone won. So that's what you look for there. Another good thing to look for, and you'll see this a lot, are policies sold by name brands that have a higher premium, like State Farm policies. Sorry, State Farm, I hate to pick on you, but I'm going to pick on you a little bit because State Farm policies don't do anything that any other policy doesn't do. In fact, they probably do less, but everybody's heard of it, so they go with it. And it's the first thing that comes up when you Google life insurance. So that's why people buy them. You can always beat a State Farm policy. I've yet to run into one that I couldn't beat. So look for that type of thing. When someone says, yeah, I got a policy through Farmers or Allstate or State Farm or whatever, boom, we need to look at that, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, because I guarantee I can beat that price. So again, first check their needs, make sure we're meeting their needs, then run some new quotes. You're going to be shocked and they're going to be shocked. A couple other things you can look for: policies that don't fit the current need. Maybe it's too much coverage or not enough coverage. Maybe they've expanded since they got the policy and they have more babies now, or their business has grown. Maybe they bought a second house and they've got 15 years left on the first mortgage and they want to have some insurance to cover that. Who knows? It could be anything. That's the whole point of a policy review, is you want to uncover what the situation is now to make sure that what they have meets that. Chances are it doesn't. So there's usually something that you can do. Not always, but usually. Too short or too long of a coverage period too. So maybe their policy is going to run out quicker than they anticipated. So that's another area to cover. One other thing I will say about policy reviews, and then I'll lay that one to rest, is that when you regularly do policy reviews and you make it just as regular as you would going after a normal sale or an initial sale, you will make, I'm not exaggerating, I would say you would make at least 5 times as much money doing policy reviews as you would on new sales. And the reason is because A, they're easier. The concept isn't new to them. They know what life insurance is. They've already got it. They understand the value and the need for it. So that part's already covered. 2, they're probably older, or chances are the older we get, our health starts to go downhill. conversions start to become more of a reality and an option, or permanent plans start to become more of a reality and an option, and those cost more. So chances are you would make upwards of 5 times as much income on policy reviews as you would an initial sale, and that is no exaggeration. I've heard as high as 10. 10 I think might be a little rosy, 10 times, but I wouldn't hesitate at all to say 5 times. So if you're not doing policy reviews, make it part of your habits and your routine, and you will make more money doing that. I promise you. So that's it on the first stage. Real quick, I'm just going to go over the second stage, the process. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, great. I like you, you like me, we like the new quotes. Here we go. Let's start an app. The old way is you could fill out the big long application and then you send it to us. We get it to the carrier. You order the paramed exams, et cetera, et cetera. Here's a much easier way to do it. This won't be a new idea to some of you who have been on the webcast before, but either way, I'm going to go over it. NBGO. It's a service that we have. It doesn't cost you anything. You get the same commission either way. There's no reason not to do it. But all it is you go to the website, click on NBGO, you run the quote, you submit the quote. That's it. That's your hands are untied from that point on. So from there, our app team will call the client on your behalf. They'll take the application over the phone. They'll send out DocuSign for signatures. They order the parameds, they gather signatures. Our case managers will deal with the underwriters and doctor records and all the fun stuff that happens in the middle there. So your part is the green part there, that circle. Our part is the rest of it, all the gray. We handle the rest. All the way to the end, to policy delivery. And during policy delivery, for the most part, actually, that should be green because that's something you get to do. That's the good news. That's when, hey, you're approved, here you go. So we'd like to let you do that. There are ways we can help you with that. A lot of carriers are going to e-delivery now. Some do, some don't. Some have certain rules around it. So I would say talk to your rep or the case manager to find out which carriers do and don't, and find out how it works if that's something that is of interest to you. But that's it in a nutshell on the NBGO. So the second stage, the middle stage of the sale, we've got handled for you for the most part. So if you haven't tried NBGO, I would definitely encourage you to try it. It will make your life a lot easier. And just to recap here, 2 main types of life insurance sales: the new sale, when it's a relatively new concept, and the policy review, when it's not a new concept. You're not going after sale, you're just looking to review what they currently have to make sure it's still what is best for them. And the 3 stages of the life insurance sale is the introduction, introducing the idea, the pitch, if you want to call it. And the second stage is the process, taking the application, processing the application, dealing with underwriters, etc. And the last part is just delivering the policy. So just to summarize all of that, the way that I want to help you in 2020 to work less and earn more is, A, on the earning more part, introduce policy reviews to what you currently do. No, it's not the sexiest subject to talk about sometimes. It's not super exciting, but it will make you a lot more money than new sales will. So if you're not doing it already, I would highly encourage you to introduce that. And 2, start doing the automatic email campaigns. Sounds simple. A lot of people don't do it. The ones who do see results and increases. The ones who don't. So those are the 2 ways that I want to help you increase your sales and success rate and decrease the amount of effort that you've got to do. And then, of course, the process, just letting us take the app for you, letting us handle the parameds and everything there. That's the way that we can help you work less, which will free you up to do other things, whether you want to go after new sales or go golfing or whatever it is you do. That's up to you. But I want to help you work less and earn more, and that's how I want to help you do it. So in conclusion, that concludes the webcast. If you haven't already added us yet on social media, definitely do, especially the YouTube channel, because on the YouTube channel, we'll post this webcast, other webcasts. We've got a lot of how-to tutorials on, just how to do field underwriting. Most of the videos are, 3-4 minutes or less, just little quick tips and tricks that you can use. So if you haven't added us yet on YouTube, definitely go add us, and then add us on social media to just stay in touch with things that we'll post on different carrier updates or industry updates. You know, there was a thing that came out recently on Genworth where Genworth isn't going to pay commissions on conversions anymore. So we sent out a post on it. So if you follow us on social media, you'll be up to date on everything that's going on. And for any questions about this webcast, or to get started with the automatic email campaigns, or to upload your contact list to the email system, call us 1-800-377-6344. Ask for your marketing rep. If you don't have one, we'll get you a marketing rep. And let me see if there's any questions here. Nope, got no questions. All right. So either I went too quick, or I was so clear that there just are no questions. Just kidding. Well, thanks everybody for joining the webcast. I appreciate your time and for hopping on today. Please do give us a call for any questions on this or to get started. Thanks. Have a good day.